It's 911. What's
I need help. I've been driving for 6 hours, but the road won't end. The signs, they keep changing.
Sir, can you tell me your location?
I don't know where I am. The GPS just shows static. And there's someone in my rearview mirror who looks exactly like me. Oh God, he's smiling at me.
What you just heard was the last known communication from 20-year-old Liam Carter, a college student from Virginia Tech who vanished on November 15, 2019. He was driving home for Thanksgiving break when he decided to take what locals call the scenic route through the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia, a shortcut that would save him an hour, or so he thought. 3 days later, his Honda Civic was found on the shoulder of Route 219, engine still running, driver's door wide open. His wallet, phone, and keys were inside. Liam Carter was gone. The official report called it a voluntary disappearance. Case closed. But the truth is something far more disturbing. This is what really happened that night on Black Hollow Road. It started like any other Friday night. Liam had been at a party in Blacksburg, celebrating the end of midterms. Around 11 p.m., he decided to head home to Richmond rather than crash at a friend's place. Instead of taking I-64 like he usually did, Liam pulled up his GPS and selected fastest route. The screen flickered for a moment before showing an alternate path through the mountains. Black Hollow Road, a thin blue line cutting straight through the wilderness. He'd never heard of it before. For the first hour, everything seemed normal. Classic rock played softly on the radio, his headlights carved through the darkness as the road wound higher into the mountains. The air grew colder, thicker, then the fog rolled in. It wasn't gradual, like mountain fog usually is. One moment the road was clear, the next moment it was like driving through milk. Liam slowed to 30, then 20 miles per hour. His high beams were useless, reflecting the mist back at him like a wall. That's when he first noticed the car behind him. A black sedan, headlights cutting through the fog maybe 50 yards back. It had been there for how long? He couldn't remember seeing it before the fog hit, but now it was there, maintaining the exact same distance no matter how fast or slow he drove. Liam pulled over at the next turnout, expecting the sedan to pass. He sat there for a full minute, engine idling, watching his mirrors. The sedan pulled over too. When Liam pulled back onto the road, so did the sedan. When he sped up, it sped up. When he slowed down, it matched his speed perfectly. But it never got closer, never tried to pass. He tried calling his roommate, but his phone showed no signal. 0 bars. The GPS had gone completely dark, just a blue dot floating in digital nowhere. That's when he saw the first sign that made his blood run cold. Nothing unusual about that except he'd passed the exact same sign 20 minutes earlier. Liam pulled over again and checked the odometer. He'd driven 43 miles since leaving the party. But according to every map he'd ever seen, he should have hit major highways by now, should have seen other cars, other lights. Instead, there was only darkness, only fog, only that black sedan waiting patiently behind him. His tank was getting low, and up ahead, like a mirage in the mist, he saw the pale glow of fluorescent lights. The station was ancient, probably hadn't been updated since the 1980s. An old man sat behind bulletproof glass, his face hidden in shadow beneath a trucker cap. When Liam walked in, the man looked up with eyes that seemed too knowing. "Old man, you're not from around here." Liam, "No sir, just passing through. I think I might be lost." Old man, "Black Hollow Road." Liam, "How did you—" Old man, "Best turn back before the fog gets thicker. Some roads don't lead where you think they're going." Liam paid for his gas and a cup of coffee that tasted like it had been sitting there all day. As he turned to leave, the old man called out, "Old man, son? That car that's been following you? Check your back seat before you drive off." Outside, Liam's hands shook as he unlocked his car. The black sedan was still there, idling silently in the fog. He couldn't see through its tinted windows, couldn't tell if anyone was inside. He opened his back door and his coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering on the asphalt. There, on his back seat, was a Polaroid photograph. Still developing, the chemicals swirling and settling into an image that made his stomach drop. It was him, sleeping in the driver's seat of his own car. The photo had been taken from outside the passenger window. He could see the gas station lights reflected in the glass, but he hadn't been sleeping. Had he? The abandoned town, 10 to 15, no way out. Liam drove faster now, desperation creeping in. The fog seemed to pulse around him like something alive. Every few miles he'd pass the same sign. Eldridge, 15 miles Eldridge, 15 miles Eldridge, 15 miles. 20 minutes later, his car began to stall. The engine coughed, wheezed, then died completely. He coasted to a stop on what looked like the main street of a small town. But this wasn't just any town. Eldridge was frozen in time. Victorian houses lined both sides of the street, their windows dark and boarded up. Street lamps from the 1920s cast pools of sickly yellow light every few yards. Everything was perfectly preserved, as if the residents had simply vanished overnight. The silence was oppressive. No insects, no nightbirds. Even the wind seemed muffled, like the whole town was wrapped in cotton. But there was light coming from one building at the end of the street, a diner with a neon sign that read, "Midnight Eats," in flickering red letters. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the diner looked like it had been frozen in 1987. Red vinyl booths, a checkerboard floor, and behind the counter, a fresh pot of coffee still warming on the burner. Steam rose from the pot. The coffee was hot. Liam poured himself a cup with trembling hands. It was perfect, rich and dark, exactly how he liked it. But as he lifted it to his lips, he noticed something that made him set it down immediately. There were other cups on the counter, dozens of them, all half empty, all still warm. The sound echoed from somewhere deeper in the town, old-fashioned, urgent ringing that seemed to go on forever. Liam followed the sound down the main street, past boarded-up shops and houses with eyes like dark windows. The payphone was in front of what used to be the town hall, a rotary phone in a glass booth ringing insistently. Liam hesitated, then picked up the receiver. Voice. Leave. Now. That's when he noticed them. Shapes moving in the shadows between buildings. Not quite human. Not quite anything else. They watched him from doorways and alleys, never moving when he looked directly at them, but always there in his peripheral vision. A newspaper tumbled across the street, caught against his feet. The West Virginia Herald, dated November 15th, 1987, exactly 32 years ago to the day. The headline read, "Local boy still missing, search called off below." It was a grainy photograph of a teenage boy with dark hair and kind eyes. The caption read, "Michael Harrison, 17, disappeared while driving through Black Hollow Road. His vehicle was found abandoned, but Michael's body was never recovered." The boy in the photograph looked exactly like Liam. Liam spun around, and there, at the far end of the street, stood a figure. A young man in jeans and a college sweatshirt, watching him with a patient smile. The young man looked exactly like Liam. For a moment that stretched into eternity, Liam stared at himself. The other version stood perfectly still, that unsettling smile never wavering. In the dim streetlight, Liam could see every detail of his own face reflected back at him. The same scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood accident. The same nervous habit of running his hand through his hair. Suddenly, his phone erupted with notifications. The screen blazed to life, showing full signal strength for the first time in hours. Missed calls, text messages, voicemails, all from the past 3 weeks. His hands shaking, Liam opened the most recent voicemail. His mother's voice, broken with grief. Mother's voice. "Liam. Baby, please, if you can hear this. The police found your car on Route 219. You've been missing for 3 weeks. Please come home. Please just come home. 3 weeks. But he'd only been driving for a few hours, hadn't he? When he looked up, the other Liam had moved closer, maybe 50 yards away now, still smiling that horrible, knowing smile. As Liam watched, his doppelganger raised one hand and waved. A slow, deliberate gesture. Liam ran. He sprinted back toward his car, past the diner, past the empty houses with their watching windows. Behind him he could hear footsteps matching his pace perfectly. Not faster, not slower. Always the same distance. His Honda was where he'd left it. But when he yanked open the driver's door, his heart stopped. Someone was already sitting in the passenger seat. It was him. The other Liam sat calmly, hands folded in his lap, turning to look at him with eyes that were just slightly wrong, too bright, too knowing. Other Liam: "You can't leave, you know. Nobody leaves Eldridge." Liam: "What are you? What is this place?" Other Liam: "This is where lost things go, where lost people go. You've been lost for a long time, haven't you, Liam?" Liam threw himself into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine coughed, sputtered, but finally caught. He threw it in reverse without looking at the thing wearing his face in the passenger seat. Other Liam: "You can't run from yourself." Liam floored the accelerator, racing back down the main street of Eldridge. In his rearview mirror, he could see the other version of himself sitting calmly in the passenger seat, watching him with that patient smile. But in the side mirror, the passenger seat was empty. He drove like a man possessed, taking turns too fast, pushing his little Honda to its limits. The fog seemed to part before him now, as if the town was finally letting him go. Behind him, Eldridge faded into the mist like it had never existed at all. For 20 minutes, he drove in blessed silence. No black sedan, no other version of himself, just the road stretching ahead into the darkness. Then his headlights caught something that made him swerve hard to the right. Another car heading straight for him in his own lane. At the last second, he saw the driver's face through the windshield. It was him. Again. His Honda left the road, tumbled down an embankment, and came to rest against a massive oak tree. Steam hissed from the crumpled hood. The windshield was spider-webbed but intact, and then silence. Liam woke up in a hospital bed, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. His head felt like it was stuffed with cotton, and every part of his body ached. A doctor stood at the foot of his bed, reading from a clipboard. "Doctor, you're lucky to be alive, Mr. Carter. Severe concussion, broken ribs, but you'll make a full recovery." Liam: "How long was I?" Doctor: 3 days. A hiker found you in your car off Route 219. You'd been there for quite a while. A police officer entered the room, hat in his hands. Detective Morrison, according to his badge. He had the weathered face of someone who'd seen too much in his years on the force. Detective: "Son, I need to ask you some questions about what happened that night. We found your car, but, well, there are some inconsistencies in the timeline." The detective showed him a manila folder filled with photographs and reports, security footage from gas stations along Route 219. Liam studied each image carefully. He wasn't in any of them. Detective: "According to our investigation, your car was parked on that embankment for at least 2 weeks before the accident. But these cameras show you never stopped for gas, never stopped anywhere along the route." Liam: "That's impossible. I remember stopping. There was an old man who warned me about the fog." Detective: "Son, there hasn't been a gas station on that stretch of road for 15 years. The detective showed him another photograph, an aerial view of the area where his car was found. There were tire tracks leading to the embankment, but they were old, weathered. Some of them looked like they'd been there for decades." Detective: "We found something else in your car, in the back seat." He handed Liam an evidence bag containing dozens of Polaroid photographs. All of them showed the same thing. Liam, sleeping in his car, taken from different angles over what appeared to be many different nights. Some of the photos were yellowed with age. Liam: "I don't understand." Detective: The strangest thing is, some of these photos appear to be from the 1980s, based on the chemical composition of the film. But that's impossible, isn't it? You weren't even born until 1999. After the detective left, Liam sat alone in his hospital room, staring at the ceiling. None of it made sense. 3 weeks missing, but he only remembered one night. Photos that couldn't exist. A town that wasn't on any map. He got up and walked to the small mirror above the sink in his room. His reflection looked back at him, pale and drawn from his ordeal. He touched the glass, watching his reflection mirror the movement perfectly. Then his reflection smiled. Not a reflection of his own smile. Liam's face was frozen in horror, but the face in the mirror grinned back at him with knowing eyes. As he watched, paralyzed, his reflection raised one hand and gave him a small, mocking wave. Reflection. "See you on the road, Liam." The mirror cracked down the middle, spiderwebbing outward from where his reflection's hand had been. When the glass finally settled, Liam saw only his own terrified face, fractured into a dozen pieces. But in each piece, his reflection was smiling. Well, there are some inconsistencies in the timeline. The detective showed him a manila folder filled with photographs and reports. Security footage from gas stations along Route 219. Liam studied each image carefully. He wasn't in any of them. "Detective, according to our investigation, your car was parked on that embankment for at least 2 weeks before the accident, but these cameras show you never stopped for gas, never stopped anywhere along the route." Liam, "That's impossible. I remember stopping. There was an old man who warned me about the fog." Detective, "Son, there hasn't been a gas station on that stretch of road for 15 years. The detective showed him another photograph. An aerial view of the area where his car was found. There were tire tracks leading to the embankment, but they were old, weathered. Some of them looked like they'd been there for decades. "Detective, we found something else in your car, in the back seat." He handed Liam an evidence bag containing dozens of Polaroid photographs. All of them showed the same thing. Liam sleeping in his car, taken from different angles over what appeared to be many different nights. Some of the photos were yellowed with age. Liam, "I don't understand." Detective, "The strangest thing is, some of these photos appear to be from the 1980s, based on the chemical composition of the film. But that's impossible, isn't it? You weren't even born until 1999. After the detective left, Liam sat alone in his hospital room, staring at the ceiling. None of it made sense. 3 weeks missing, but he only remembered one night. Photos that couldn't exist. A town that wasn't on any map. He got up and walked to the small mirror above the sink in his room. His reflection looked back at him, pale and drawn from his ordeal. He touched the glass, watching his reflection mirror the movement perfectly. Then his reflection smiled. Not a reflection of his own smile. Liam's face was frozen in horror, but the face in the mirror grinned back at him with knowing eyes. As he watched, paralyzed, his reflection raised one hand and gave him a small, mocking wave. Reflection. "See you on the road, Liam." The mirror cracked down the middle, spider webbing outward from where his reflection's hand had been. When the glass finally settled, Liam saw only his own terrified face, fractured into a dozen pieces. But in each piece, his reflection was smiling.